call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge for May 28, 2019. Tonight, we have the distinct honor of being led in the pledge by Marcello Schiappa. Marcello is the eldest of 3 children of trustee Tony Schiappa and his wife Patricia. He is big brother to Sophia, who is in the 7th grade, and Matteo, who is in the 1st grade. Recently, he graduated from 8th grade from Our Lady of Peace Catholic School in Darien, where he ran cross country, track, was a mathlete, and a member of the chess club, and a member also of his all-time favorite club, the Comedy Club. He is proudly attending Hinsdale South High School this fall, where he will be taking a number of honor classes and is especially excited for his chosen elective, Honors Intro in Business, in which he can then have a talk shop with his father, I guess, huh? He is a member of the Boy Scout Troop 56 of Burr Ridge and currently holds first-class rank. He is working hard to becoming an Eagle Scout, and for those out there, only about 6% of all Scouts earn the rank of Eagle Scout. Marcello is especially excited to travel to Italy this summer with his family, including his grandparents, Nono and Nonna, who are eager to show the grandkids where they grew up and all the rich history and culture that Italy has to offer. First on his list to do in Italy, eating gelato. Marcello, come on up and lead us in the pledge.
Thank you for the introduction, Mayor Grasso. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Trustee Paveza.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Here.
Trustee Mittal.
Here.
Trustee Model.
Here.
Mayor Grasso.
Here. Item 3, presentations and public hearings. Tonight we have a presentation from the Police Department regarding recognition of National Police Week and the Burr Ridge Police Department holding of Concerns of Police Survivors, or known as COPS, the annual conference here in the area.
I'd like to introduce Sergeant Michael Barnes from our police department, who will make a presentation. Also note that Deputy Chief Art Loftus is in attendance as well. Sergeant Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Pollack. Good evening, Mayor Grasso, trustees, and guests. Tonight, I stand before you with gratitude for the companies and individuals from the village of Burr Ridge and the surrounding communities that have been so involved with assisting us in our relationship with COPS. Before I get into what COPS is, I'd like to take a moment to thank Chief Madden, Deputy Chief Loftus, Janet Colwell, my family, and current and previous board members from the village of Burr Ridge. Without all of your unwavering support, we would not be able to give back to the officers' families that have been killed in the line of duty, nor bring the conferences or attention to the village of Burr Ridge community that we have thus far. In the year 2000, the Burr Ridge Police Department hired a young, energetic officer named Jonathan Walsh. John left us in 2002 in good standing and went to work for the Joliet Police Department. In 2004, while John was responding to an alarm call, his car was struck by a driver with a revoked driver's license, causing John's vehicle to crash into a crane on the side of the road. The driver fled the scene, and John ultimately succumbed to his injuries that night on the side of the road. Every 53 hours across the United States, we lose an officer in the line of duty. These averages out to about 140 to 160 officers per year. As of 2018, there are now 1,104 names engraved in the wall at the Illinois Police Officers Memorial alone. This year, Illinois has already had 4 officers killed in the line of duty, and unfortunately, as we all know, there could be more. Shortly after John's death, the Burr Ridge Police Department became involved with the organization known as Concerns of Police Survivors, or COPS for short. COPS was started in 1984 with its primary goal of rebuilding shattered lives. Some may ask, how do you even do that? COPS isn't an organization that comes in and writes checks, although there's many organizations out there that do that. We are in it for the long haul with the family. We come for the journey that we call the new normal for them. Life without their loved one that was killed in the line of duty. In 2005, the Illinois chapter of COPS was formed, and today there are more than 50 chapters across the United States and in the United Kingdom. COPS officer survivors a unique perspective on the healing process. We first assist the families with counseling reimbursement. We also cover the cost of any specialized annual retreats of categories of survivor type based on their specific needs. COPS Kids Camp, Co-workers Retreat, Outward Bound, Young Adult, Spouses, Significant Others, Parents, Siblings, Co-workers, and Extended Family today. We cover all the cost for the rest of those families' lives to attend those retreats. Last year alone, we served more than 200 surviving children at COPS Kids Camp in Wisconsin. These camps and retreats are designed with the opportunity for each of these groups to grieve and to grow with each other. They offer fun events to participate in while still having counselors on site to assist each of these groups during these difficult times. We further assist the families each year during National Police Week in Washington, D.C., when their officers' names will forever be engraved amongst all those that have gone before. So where does the Village of Burr Ridge, the Burr Ridge Police Department, the local businesses, and the residents fit into this puzzle? 2019 will be the 11th year that our agency has participated in the Illinois COPS Cycle Across Illinois. This 350-plus mile bicycle ride travels across the state of Illinois over a 4-day period in July. The average road temperatures run about 125 degrees that the cyclists are pedaling on. We have more than 90 participants in this ride. It's our largest fundraiser. We raise over $100,000 in 4 days to help support our ongoing programs. Last year was my 10th and final time on the ride. This year, Officer Chris Garcia from our department will take my place. Chief Madden, Deputy Chief Loftus, and other members of the department have assisted with this ride throughout our last 11 years. Twice now, we have hosted their Saturday night final meal, as well as a rest stop in Burr Ridge with the support of the Burr Ridge Citizens Police Academy alumni and local restaurants. Since 2015, our agency has been part of the Illinois COPS Critical Incident Memorial Team, handling all the arrangements for the line of duty deaths in the state of Illinois, with the exception of the Chicago Police Department and the Cook County Sheriff's Department. I am proud to be one of the founding members of that team. Since the inception of that team, we have laid 14 officers, troopers, and deputies to rest across the state. This includes 4 funerals that our team has handled during an 8-week period this year. Think of all the survivors that surround these line of duty deaths. An average funeral for us is 2,500 people in attendance. In 2017, with the assistance of Janet Kowal, we were able to bring more than 208 officers from around the state and country to Burr Ridge to participate in a training class called Traumas in Law Enforcement. This class is held in 7 locations each year, and in the 21-year history of this training seminar, this was the largest class ever held. We were originally asked to hold a seminar for 50 attendees. We were originally told that's all we would need is a space for 50. 2 months before the conference came, we received a call that said we had 150 on a waiting list. What were you going to be able to do for us? We could not let them down. And gratefully, through our partnerships here in the community, and especially with C&H Industrial, they allowed us to come into their facility for 4 days and host this conference, so every officer on that list from across the country was able to attend. The National COPS officers even came in to observe, which is very rare for them to do. They came in from Missouri because they could not believe how large this conference was. In 2018, Burr Ridge Police Department, with the help of Janet Kowal again, presented a bid package to the National COPS Office an attempt to, as we like to say, steal the conference away from Texas and bring it to Burr Ridge. With the help of Tammy Madden, Janet, Chief Madden, Deputy Chief Loftus, we were able to secure the conference and become the host agency. Unfortunately, the conference was too big to hold here in Burr Ridge due to the lack of meeting space. The conference brought in more than 550 officers from 46 states, the United Kingdom, and Canada. And even though the event was held in our sister town of Oak Brook, we had amazing support from our local businesses. We were able to put together welcome kits to Burr Ridge for the attendees so that they could use those kits during their free time. We held a welcome dinner with the National Cop staff at Cooper's Hawk, and many participants enjoyed our village center, and many officers talked about how great Falco's Pizza was. In 2019, we will once again host the conference for the 5th Annual National Cops Conference on Traumas and Wellness. We are expecting to far exceed last year's numbers. That event again will be held in Oak Brook this year from November 8th through the 10th. During these conferences, we also hold a silent auction. Chief Madden, along with Roselle Police Chief Heron, were able to commission this custom-made Les Paul guitar that you see before you tonight. In the middle of National Police Week last week, we were very honored that our resident, Mr. Jim Peterick, was kind enough to come over and autograph the guitar for us. This guitar, which has the Concerns of Police Survivor symbol on the front and St. Michael, patron saint of police officers, on the back, will be auctioned off during a silent auction to help pay for some of the programs that I spoke about earlier. I think it's very fitting that a former member of the band Survivor and now the Ides of March signed this amazing piece of art that stands before you tonight. Mr. Mayor, it truly has been an honor representing the village of Burr Ridge in Omaha, Nebraska, in Grapevine, Texas, in Washington, D.C., and even in Des Moines, Iowa, along with towns all across the state. The little town of Chester, where Popeye was born, Bloomingdale, McHenry County, Freeport. Burr Ridge is well known among these cities and towns where cops has been needed. Mr. Mayor, each year a police department, an individual, and a business is selected to receive the Eternal Flame Award from the Illinois chapter of cops. This award is given to those people in the categories mentioned for their sustained and continued support for the Illinois chapter of cops, and for helping keep the memories of our fallen officers alive and well. This award can only be received once by any one of those individuals. However, Burr Ridge was a little unique. In 2014, Chief Madden accepted the award on behalf of the village of Burr Ridge, and then in 2016, although we could not earn the award again, we were provided with a continued dedication plaque that sits behind the Eternal Flame over in the Village Hall. So we've actually kind of received it twice. I must point out, though, this is not the only Eternal Flame here in the village. I'm proud to say that Janet Kowal has received it as an individual for her dedication to the Illinois Cops organization, and our very own CNH Industrial has received the award in the business category. We have not only been recognized on the state level, but also on the national level. Last week, while Mr. Peter was signing our guitar, we were represented on a video that was played during National Police Week in Washington, D.C., reminding survivors that we're their family and that we will continue to stand by them. As I close, I can't thank all those individuals and businesses enough who have stood behind our efforts here in Burr Ridge. They have been the driving force in our quest to rebuild shattered lives, and without the support of Chief Madden, Deputy Chief Loftus, the current and previous village boards and businesses in Burr Ridge, we would not be able to help so many survivors from across the state and the nation. And I think, Mr. Peter, if you'd like to come up.
Yes, I would. You're a hard act to follow. Great job.
great, great cause, cops, and all you're doing for families of fallen policemen. It's such a noble task, and you are keeping law and order in this country. It's such a important thing to do, and it seems to get more dangerous all the time, and that sucks. But we keep the faith. And I'd like to dedicate this song to cops and all the fallen not soldiers, but policemen and their families, and the camps that you're providing. But I wrote this song, co-wrote this song back in 1982 after a phone call from Mr. Sylvester Stallone. He had this answering machine at the time. And I come home, I lived in the Grange at the time. And I press the play back and, hey, yo, Jim, give me a call. Sylvester Stallone. And I go, yeah, right. So they put me on. And my wife's, thank God my wife said, you can call him back. That sounds like Stallone. So I called him back. I said, Jim Peter, is this really Sylvester Stallone? Hey, Jim, call me Sly. So here's a kid from Berwyn calling my hero Sly. And it was just a thrill. I call it the phone call that changed my life. But of course, at the time, I kind of thought the song would be a big song because they'll be on Rocky III to support it, But in the year 2019, the song is still around, still making a difference in people's lives, and still finding different causes to support. And today, the song takes on special significance for cops. And everything I heard that you folks are doing, it's clear that you have a spirit that I wrote the song for, and that spirit is the Eye of the Tiger. So I signed this guitar with that inscription, keep the eye of the tiger, and that's very, very important to me. That you always remember this. This guitar, by the way, is not just a guitar. This is a piece of art. And I was very, very honored to sign it. So I wanted to thank the artist. His name was Mark. Mark did the artwork on this. Just a tremendous guitar, which should fetch a lot of bucks. And that's the kind of cause to raise money for. So, without further ado, I'd like to play the song for you guys. This is the Eye of the Tiger. String out the tune. I want this to be good. I think it's coming in from outside, that kind of thing. How'd you like it so far?
I don't think we would have noticed, Jim.
It's got to be great. Oh, there's the booger right there.
Oh, yeah, I see.
You knew that. I could have told me these three. All right, I'm going to try this again. Almost better.
summer concert season is over.
I think that should boost the ratings of this meeting quite a bit.
Gary, I'm going to have to leave because I got an appointment. I hope that's okay.
It's absolutely, Jim. On behalf of Burr Ridge, we're so proud that you are part of us and we are part of you. Thank you for doing this for cops. Thank you for stepping up as you always do. We're proud of you, Jim Peterick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love this town.
Thank you. Now, before we move on, Tiana Cornwall, who we asked to do everything in this village, someone needs to record us from back there, if we can, even on a cell phone. The storms that we've all experienced over the last few days, apparently last night, blew out the system here, and while they've been working on it all day, they've been unable to repair it. So while we have audio here, we'd like, so far I think, Assistant Chief Loftus, we've already got Sergeant Barnes on tape, okay, and we've got Jim on tape, and so if we can get somebody to record the rest of this. Can somebody do it? Okay.
Here we go, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Let's see it. See you later, guys.
Marcello, I don't think that anybody else that comes up to say the pledge is going to have quite the night. I just kind of predict that, okay? All right, let's get down to business. Item 4, the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Item 5, minutes. A, approval of the regular board meeting of May 13, 2019. B, receive and file draft stormwater committee meeting of May 14, 2019. And C, receive and file draft environmental quality commission meeting of May 22, 2019. 6, ordinances. A, approval of an ordinance granting an amendment to planned unit development ordinance A 834-09-99 to permit an annual temporary structure covering a pool in the rear yard of a health club in the L1 Light Industrial District. Z05-2019, 6901 Madison Street, 5 Seasons. B, approval of an ordinance amending section 10E of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to add private schools as a special use in the L1 Light Industrial District, Z06-2019 text amendment, private school. C, approval of an ordinance granting a special use for a private school in a L1 Light Industrial District, Z06-219, 6880 North Frontage Road, Vine Academy. 7, resolutions. C, adoption of a resolution approving a membership agreement with the Lower Des Plaines Watershed Group and petition the Illinois Pollution Control Board for a time-limited water quality standard for chlorides. 8, consideration C, approval of recommendation to award a professional services contract for construction engineering on the Burr Ridge Parkway resurfacing project to Patrick Engineering, Inc. of Lisle, Illinois, in an amount not to exceed $83,433. D, approval of recommendation to award a professional services contract for construction engineering on the County Line Road North Connection Sidewalk Project to Burns and McDonald Engineering Company, Inc. of Downers Grove, Illinois, in the amount of $89,506. E, approval of recommendation to award contract for 2019 pavement marking program to Superior Road Striping of Melrose Park, Illinois, in an amount not to exceed $20,000. Approval of recommendation to purchase replacement video equipment for police vehicles from L3 Mobile Vision in an amount not to exceed $16,020. G, approval of requests to solicit donations and other forms of support for the national concerns of police survivors, traumas, and wellness conference. H, approval of vendor list dated May 28, 2019, fiscal year 1819, in the amount of $325,898.94 for all funds, which includes special expenditures of $14,000 for the Public Works Facility Needs Assessment and $12,278.87 for tree and stump removal. I, approval of vendor list dated May 28, 2019, fiscal year 1920, in the amount of $124,937.58 for all funds, plus $195,716.61 for payroll, for a grand total of $320,654.19, which includes special expenditures of $22,700 for mosquito abatement. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the following items on the consent agenda? Items 5A, B, and C, 6A, B, and C, 7C, 8C through I.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiato.
Yes.
Trustee Baveza.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
Trustee Model.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. That takes us to resolutions. Section A, adoption of resolution to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Illinois being the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment. How many people know what that is? Okay. Should we give a little history about this?
Sure, I can do that. The village was approached by the League of Women's Voters, the LaGrange area chapter of the League of Women Voters. They've been asking villages throughout their area to support a resolution which supports the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Of course, the 19th Amendment was the amendment that allowed women to vote in federal elections. Illinois has been at the forefront of that movement, and June 10th, 2019 will be the 100th anniversary of Illinois' ratification of the 19th Amendment, with Illinois being the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment. The League of Women Voters has asked that each village read the proclamation at a regular scheduled board meeting. So I would ask Mayor Grasso to please do so. Thank you.
Thank you. A resolution to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Illinois being the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment. Whereas Illinois had long been at the forefront of the movement to provide women the right to vote. And whereas in Illinois, the first Women's Suffrage Association was established in Earlville in LaSalle County in 1855, just 7 years after the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York, which called for suffrage for women. Whereas the first statewide suffrage organization, the Illinois Women's Suffrage Association, or IWSA, was established in 1869, becoming the Illinois Equal Suffrage Association in 1891. And whereas also in 1891, Illinois enacted a law allowing women the right to vote for elected school offices. And whereas in 1913, Illinois enacted the Presidential Suffrage Bill, which gave Illinois women the right to vote in federal and municipal elections, not otherwise restricted to men under the Illinois Constitution. Whereas, with the enactment of that law, Illinois became the first state east of the Mississippi River to give women such right to vote, and is credited with being a major positive influence in advancing the women's suffrage movement in the United States. Whereas on June 4th, 1919, the proposed 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution was passed by the United States Congress and sent to the states for ratification. And whereas 100 years ago, on June 10, 1919, Illinois became the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment, 1 hour prior to Wisconsin. Whereas Illinois led the way for the necessary 3/4 of the states to ratify the 19th Amendment, which became part of the Constitution on August 26, 1920. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge declares June 10, 2019 a day to celebrate women's right to vote and the important role Illinois played in achieving that right in the United States. And get a motion to approve the resolution to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Illinois being the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed by acclamation. Thank you. All right, that takes us to 7B, resolution supporting additional legislation reducing ambient concentrations of ethylene oxide. Evan, it's my understanding, and maybe the board also got similar emails, that the law was actually passed. There's some procedural rules going on now, but can you bring us up to date on where we are?
Sure. So this is currently back in the Senate. This was originally passed by the Senate, originally Senate Bill 1852. It was passed in shell bill format by the Senate, which means it was very limited in scope. Went to the House. A much larger legislation, which is what you have before you tonight, was then introduced over the past few weeks and was reviewed by the EQC at our last Wednesday meeting. At this point, it has gone back to the Senate for just a procedural vote. At that point, it will move on to the governor's desk for final signature. We expect that to be in the next day or so. Again, these are just some procedural items that they need to concur with the legislation that has been put forth in the House. There's one or two other things that we have to get approved per the Speaker's rules, just waiving some deadlines, which most of which have already been completed. So we are purely a procedural vote away from being at the governor's desk.
Any indication as to when the governor is going to sign this?
By all indications this week, because that's when the end of session is.
Do any of the trustees have any questions of Evan? Does anybody in the audience have any questions about the status? This is the law in Illinois to control the usage of ethylene oxide, and that's, of course, stemming out of the Sterigenics situation. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Yes.
Evan, is this going to be really a solution for the problem? Do you think this will require Sterigenics to leave the area? Does this give us what we're looking for, or does it not go far enough?
So I'd like to hone in on one very particular part of the language, and that is the part of the language that says that any facility which has been shut down by virtue of a seal order is not permitted to use ethylene oxide. So Sterigenics has been shut down by virtue of a seal order by the state of Illinois' EPA. So should that seal order be upheld in court, already has been upheld by a federal court, has been brought up again in a state court, should that be upheld again, that part of the law will apply to them. So they could operate under another business model, but they would not be permitted to use ethylene oxide in any format whatsoever. So short of being a hammer that says Sterigenics may not operate, it at least gets them to the real meat of the issue.
Thank you.
Which is all that the community wants. We want that to stay sealed and shut. And no court should lift that seal, in certainly my opinion, and this village and all of our neighbors will stand up very loud about continuing the seal order and continuing to make sure that Sterigenics stays closed. So we will continue to follow this. Things happen very quickly in Springfield this time of year, as we all know. But stay tuned to our website because we will keep you updated. Yes.
Evan, would you like to comment on how this bill, Bill 1852, is a consolidation of other bills that were previously brought up and how it evolved?
Certainly. So we've had about 10 pieces of legislation throughout the entire session in the state be introduced on this topic, majority of which went nowhere, for lack of a better word. These are things like ethylene oxide storage regulations, notification items, but a lot of the main items that were important to a lot of these legislative measures were then later consolidated under this legislation, 1852. 1854, which has already been moved along as well, has other language in it. That's dealing with mainly the notification process of how a permit were to come up for ethylene oxide. It's a bit inside baseball, but the vast majority of all the language dealing with ethylene oxide regulations in the state is contained in this bill. And this is really just part of the procedural aspects of legislation that sometimes occur, and it has occurred in this case. It took a little while for agreeable language to come out that all parties could be happy with. But to your point, Trustee Francis, a lot of roads have led to this single piece of legislation.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have a question?
I just wanted to add a couple of comments to that. First of all, there's still a lot of uncertainties involved in this. The village staff will continue to diligently follow this. Evan has been our representative in Springfield and in all the local meetings with EPA. At the village board's direction, we hired a lobbyist a couple of weeks ago. We feel at the staff level that we've certainly gotten our money's worth from that. The lobbyist has been in contact with Evan on a daily basis, if not hourly at times, and has tracked this legislation, has been in contact with our legislators and others in Springfield. So we remain diligent in pursuing this, making sure, as Mayor Grasso said, that Sterigenics isn't allowed to open again. That is our goal. And I just wanted to add those comments there.
And then one reminder, tomorrow at 6 o'clock in Burr Ridge, there will be a public meeting on ethylene oxide. It'll be at the Burr Ridge Marriott down on the Village Center side. And we encourage the public to come out. I believe many of your trustees who can make it will be there. I will be there. There will be officials from neighboring villages all there, and EPA and other organizations. But we need to keep the drum beating of how serious this problem is to us, how serious it actually is, and the need to keep Sterigenics shut down. So tomorrow night, 6 o'clock at the Marriott in Burr Ridge, there will be the public meeting on ethylene oxide. Yes.
Yes. Is there anything that we should be doing, or any legislators in particular that we or the public, anybody watching, should be contacting? Is there anybody resisting this, or anything that we can do in the last hours to make sure it gets over the final hurdle?
I think we're at a good point. We've got the legislation passed. That was all in anticipation of these public meetings and things, so I think our message has been heard. I think we've reached out. I think this board approved the last time we met for a lobbyist. It certainly appears that the lobbyist is helping. And so the EDC has been all on top of that. And our Environmental Quality Commission has also been on top of it. So I think we're doing everything that this board and all the residents can do. Trustee Francis, you want to address that at all?
The lobbyist has been paying big dividends. This came to fruition through a lot of work with a lot of residents, volunteers, putting a lot of pressure on legislators, local governments, and such, so that this legislation does get bipartisan support in our state legislature, which is unusual for any piece of legislation. But it has a common theme and a common goal, and that's to provide a safe breathing air for our residents. So with that, I would like to make the motion to approve the resolution supporting the additional legislation reducing ambient concentrations of ethylene oxide. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. That passes. Thank you. And I think that takes us through consideration 8A, update regarding Sterigenics, unless there's anything else you want to add.
I don't believe there's anything else to add. We've mentioned the public meeting tomorrow night. That was the most important update to provide. Again, 6 o'clock, Burr Ridge Marriott on Wednesday, May 29th.
Okay, yes.
There are links on our village website. If residents want to ask questions, to submit those questions via the links, and questions will be consolidated and then read out loud and asked to certain panel members depending on the topics. Also, there'll be a tabletop session between 2 and 5 p.m. with various groups. Residents and members of the public can visit those tabletops and learn more about various groups and various activities that are supporting the elimination of ethylene oxide in our air.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to 8B, consideration of amendments to Chapter 2, Article 1 of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code pertaining to the village president and president pro tem. There is a specimen draft ordinance under 8B in your packet. It's always going to be my procedure that such ordinances should be brought forward under consideration so that we have the time to consider them and not have them presented under the ordinance section. Obviously, these types of things do not need to be rushed. So that's why it's under consideration. It's here for you to consider, raise any questions now, and it will probably be brought forward in 2 weeks or at the next meeting. But this at least will give you some time to consider it. This is precisely to avoid what occurred when Mayor Straub resigned. There was nothing in place, no procedure to hold over until the next election. So generally speaking, this ordinance would require that the pro tem be designated and voted upon by the board after each basically trustee election every 2 years. And so it would be required to do that, so there wouldn't be a gap as there happened to have been this last time around. That's the tenor of it. So if anybody has any questions, or any of the trustees have any questions about it now, we can discuss it. Obviously, it's under consideration. If not, you can consider it, and we can direct staff to prepare the ordinance for the next meeting, whatever your pleasure is. Tony?
I've read through it, and I agree with the language. I think it was embarrassment. I talked to several residents in the village that were embarrassed by the fact that we couldn't come to a consensus to pick one person to run our meetings during that time period. This amendment will eliminate the opportunity for someone to serve their own agenda. So I look forward to putting this amendment in place.
Anyone else? Yes, Kai?
This is something similar to what is done in the Plan Commission, or what we've done in the Plan Commission in the past, where we've nominated and recommended approval of a vice chairman of the Plan Commission to serve for a period of 1 year. That way, if the chairman of the Plan Commission is out of town, the vice chairman can take over another meeting efficiently and seamlessly without any interruption, without any debate as to who's presiding the meeting. So I would support this.
Judge?
So you're proposing between now and one of the next few...
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
I apologize, I'm closer to the mic. So your proposal is for us in the next few weeks to come up with you're going to come up with a suggestion for a pro temp?
So what will happen if the board so directs, if someone makes a motion and is seconded and passed, we would direct staff to prepare this ordinance for approval at the next meeting. If that is done and becomes an ordinance, yes, then I will propose a person pro tem. I don't think there's any secret. I'm going to nominate Al, and then we'll have a vote. Yes.
I think it's a good idea. You know, I'm a big fan of good governance and a big fan of prudent planning, succession planning, whether it's in business or in any instance, so I would support this as well.
I can tell you that I listened to the closed session discussion, and I didn't see any attempt for a resolution or compromise during that session. And so I think this ordinance is very much needed in this village. So with that, can I get a motion
So moved.
to
Second.
direct staff to put this in final form so we can consider it and pass it at the next board meeting? Second? Okay. Can we get a roll call, please?
Sure. Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Thank you. That takes us to 8J, other considerations for announcement, deliberation, and/or discussion only. No official action will be taken. Are there any matters that Yes?
I just wanted to mention one thing. Two things on your consent agenda item were they were actually on last meeting's agenda, was the engineering and the contracts for the Burr Ridge Parkway resurfacing, as well as the County Line Road sidewalk. And I want to thank Dave Pricing, our village engineer and public works director. Those ended up coming under bid. It saved us a significant amount of money, over $100,000 combined. And we're very pleased to see those projects go forward. So thank you, Dave.
Anybody else on the board?
Yes, real quick, we approved under 8G about the soliciting donations for the national concerns of police survivors. I was curious where we can get more information about participating and supporting the cause that we learned about.
Let's go to the expert.
The website is concernsofpolicesurvivors.org. There's a link there for the national conference, and then the Illinois chapter is ilcops.org for the local chapter. And then if anybody has any questions, my email is obviously out there for you to ask.
Right, and Sergeant, I think another point that should be made is that Burr Ridge has led this effort most recently, and the program has grown so much with Burr Ridge's leadership, Burr Ridge Police Department leadership, that Burr Ridge couldn't hold it. We didn't have a facility large enough here, which is why it's in Oak Brook.
That's correct.
But Burr Ridge is sponsoring it.
We are the host agency, yes, Mayor.
Right.
So we will have officers from the department attending, and then also officers will be assisting with the actual program. For the national office is actually here for a week, so
Right.
and they'll be visiting. I'm guessing Cooper's Hawk again, since we had such a good time there last year.
Right.
So
And maybe a couple of other places.
I hope so. So.
So remember, that's November 8th through 10th. Burr Ridge hosting and sponsoring is going to be held in Oak Brook. Okay. Any other items under other considerations? Yes, Trustee Francis.
Annual Burr Ridge Car Shows, Sunday, June 9th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Village Center on Village Center Drive. Looking forward to that. And a beautiful sunny day.
Yes, let's hope we get some beautiful weather for a change. Anything else? Yes, sorry.
The Run the Ridge 5K race is Saturday, June 1st. There's going to be some temporary road closures, and we hope not to be too much of an inconvenience on people, but between 7 and 9 a.m. on Saturday, there will be temporary road closures along Burr Ridge Parkway and Chasemore Drive.
Okay. Well, actually, there's a number of things I'm supposed to read tonight. Thank you, Janet Cole. So let's see. Thursday, May 23rd, Gower Middle School DARE graduation took place. Officers Bobby Worth, Chris Garcia, Megan Smith, Tom Poster, Rob Worth, Kyle Gralamick, and Sergeant Dave Allen were all participants. Mrs. America helped present certificates, goodie bags, and gave an anti-drug, anti-opioid speech to the 5th grade graduates. Wednesday, May 29th, EPA meeting, we've talked about that. Run the Ridge is on here, we've talked about that. June 5th, the Willowbrook Burr Ridge Chamber of Commerce Business Expo will take place at Ashton Place in Willowbrook, and that runs from 1 to 4 p.m. with a variety of businesses and services presented. On Saturday, June 8th, the Children's Safety Expo at Pleasantdale Middle School will take place. It runs from 9 a.m. to noon. Many areas of the village participating with fire, police, EMS, and public works vehicles, and information on children's safety. This is sponsored by State Senator John Curran and Illinois Representative Jim Turkin. The car show is June 9th. And on June 12th, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., the Burr Ridge Police Department will hold a free scam awareness seminar at the police station. Oh, this is really timely. They will cover various types of scams, safety tips, and what to do if you are a victim of a scam. Make note of that. June 12, 8:30 to 6:30 p.m. It's probably something all of us should listen to or attend. And Friday, June 14th starts, will be the second concert on the green, since we already had a presentation tonight. The Blues Brothers will be there at 7 p.m. Any other considerations, announcements, etc.? I have a couple more, unless any trustees have. On Memorial Day, we had the wreath-laying ceremony here at 8 a.m. in the morning. It was fairly well attended. Janet Kowal, again, her name gets mentioned for good reason all the time. She organized a wonderful ceremony, and we actually had beautiful weather for the first few hours of the morning and had a great event. Former Mayor Mickey Straub helped put that together with the Veterans Committee. I wanted to tell you that I had the opportunity with the Metropolitan Mayor's Conference to attend the Hamilton exhibit. It's really wonderful, especially if you have any interest in American history. It's really excellent. And one of the things that I discovered I'd never known before is that Alexander Hamilton's wife lived 50 years after his death. She spent those 50 years until she died at the age of 96, preserving his memory, going out and getting all of his letters, and really putting his life together so that future generations like us could understand the things that were happening back at the Revolutionary times and after. So it was his wife, Elizabeth, who actually did all the hard work to preserve his memory. And that's kind of fitting since we just passed a resolution for the 19th Amendment tonight. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Yes?
I have two things, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. The first was I wanted to recognize the sixth grade class at Pleasantdale Middle School. I had the pleasure to come speak with them today. They've been studying about government, and they wanted to learn about local government. I had a nice discussion with them and explained what the village does and our roles and responsibilities. And I promised to report back to the village board of some of the concerns of the sixth graders at Pleasantdale Middle School. The number one question that I got in the Q&A was what happened to Red Mango. They were very concerned about ice cream in the village, and I used it as a great chance to explain about tax incentives and how we can attract certain types of businesses to town. Of course, we missed the chance with Red Mango, but I directed them over to the Plush Horse as well. And the other thing they wanted to let us know about, we talked about the potential sports facility and what other types of development could go into Burr Ridge. And the middle schoolers panned the idea of the sports facility and definitely would like us to get another movie theater in town. So I promised to report that back. Thank you. And great shout out to those kids. They were really great today and they asked some great questions. My second point, I had asked Doug to share this with the village board, but I think he missed it. But anyway, I wanted to take a minute and read this. I wrote an op-ed on May 17th that was published in the Tribune, and it's very timely because right now they're about to pass perhaps one of the largest tax increases in the state of Illinois. I'm not very much in favor of that, and this was one idea that gave another alternative to raise some revenue in the state. So I'll read this as quickly as possible. Over the past 2 decades, Illinois has lost roughly 280,000 manufacturing jobs, and as these good-paying jobs have departed, so too have many longtime residents. Illinois has now lost population for 5 consecutive years, with 45,000 residents leaving in the last year alone. Illinois also has the distinction of being the most taxed state in the country, and it imposes an effective tax rate of 38.5% higher than the national average, according to Wallet Hub. As a lifelong Illinoisan who runs a family-owned manufacturing business, this troubles me. My company, Atlas Toolworks, makes precision metal products for industries like aerospace, medical, and telecom. We're firmly rooted in our community and we value our employees. We pay the income, property, business, and sales taxes that support our state schools and infrastructure. And being a local manufacturer, I've had a ringside seat as Illinois' manufacturing competitiveness has declined. And I've seen how our current tax system actually encourages offshoring at the expense of local producers. And this shouldn't be happening, given our state's lengthy industrial history. But thanks to a tax system that favors transfer pricing, multinational corporations are able to simultaneously park their losses in the United States while shifting profits to tax havens. As a result, companies like AbbVie, John Deere, and Amazon essentially pay no income taxes here at all. However, smaller companies like mine, we've got no foreign affiliates, and just like most of the businesses in the village that we support, they simply can't avoid Illinois taxes. The 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act did reduce the number of companies that can benefit from overseas loopholes, but it's still galling to see brazen examples of companies allocating profits in a foreign subsidiary and facing no tax liability. Now, the situation could become even more problematic now that Governor J.B. Pritzker has proposed a corporate income tax of 10.45%, the third highest in the nation. And pass-through businesses would face an income tax of 9.45%, the fourth highest in the nation, according to the Tax Foundation. And what that means is that an even larger share of the state's tax burden would fall on domestic manufacturers, as well as all of us individuals paying taxes, as well as all small businesses, while larger corporations continue to dodge Illinois taxes. I believe a much smarter approach would be the tax legislation being proposed by State Rep. Greg Harris, it's House Bill 2085, and Senator Heather Staines, Senate Bill 1115. Both are looking to close offshoring loopholes and start taxing multinational corporations on the profits they earn from sales in Illinois. If a company earns profits of $1 million on sales of goods or services in the state of Illinois, then it should be taxed on that $1 million in profits. Essentially, that means no more tax dodging in Bermuda or the Cayman Islands. And if Illinois ended these tax avoidance strategies, the state could raise $1.3 billion in taxes from multinational corporations that currently sell into Illinois but pay almost no taxes here. I believe that Illinois already taxes and spends too much. It runs counter to my belief to casually urge more taxation. But Illinois has failed to reform spending and appears to be embarking on a massive tax increase on all of us. In the face of such economic uncertainty, I would prefer to see everyone who enjoys access to Illinois' consumer and business markets pay their fair share. Illinois legislators should consider these bills as a productive first step. Just like the rest of us, these corporations should pay their fair share in Illinois, and if nothing else changes, Illinois will continue to subsidize multinational corporations at the expense of local businesses. Local chambers of commerce should stand up for Illinois businesses and support these efforts to level the playing field and bring fairness to our tax system. This is essential when we face a downward spiral of dwindling population and reduced tax base. And I would add that anyone who's watching, this is your opportunity to contact those legislators, your legislator, any legislator, and urge passage. You've got a few more days, and I would much rather see people pay their fair share, companies pay their fair share, than all of us who are here pay more. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mayor Grasso.
Is there any public comment? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
We do have a meeting Monday at 9 o'clock with the union.
So,
Pardon?
Yeah, this coming Monday.
Yeah, 9 o'clock.
I'll be leaving work.
right.